I will I will create a, a section in the notes doc.
Okay. Welcome everyone to the Flux Dev meeting for August 6th. If you haven't found us at the new calendar, it's all of the links should be updated on fluxcd.io. We're on the Linux Foundation Zoom platform now, and you will need to log in to get into the meeting, at least as a guest, is my understanding. But the calendar is updated, and you should be able to find these links here or on the dev notes. It should also be linked here, and I don't see it anymore. I'm going to have to fix that.
Oh, the dev notes are not. Is it just not highlighted there? Huh. Strange for the
Yeah.
agenda doc. Okay. Well, we have
Um,
things to tweak,
Yeah,
but
you know what?
for
It's
updating that, Kingdom.
on each meeting, it's added as an attachment and it just doesn't come out. So maybe there's metadata that we can scrape now where it was in the description before. I'll have to look at the website repo and what we're doing and what JSON we get now. But
okay, I was able to reach this place where you're at now, but where do we put it in Zoom? I really want to try
here's where
this.
the meeting agenda is linked. If you have access to this calendar or if you can get here, I think it's public. And the sad news is it's now two separate links. So you can't just come to the meeting and forget whether it's Wednesday or Thursday. You have to pick one. But
That is a lot of thinking for sometimes what is the first meeting of the day.
don't ask me to make a choice before I've had my
Yeah.
coffee.
Yeah.
But where do you put the host key in the link? Like, is it a query parameter or what? How do you use the host key? We really need to sort this. This is really important for us.
Yeah. It's like we need to be able to meet and manage our meeting. Uh,
Yeah.
you
So
know, the fact though that you were able to even have a meeting last week is a success. So we're good.
Actually, we had a bunch of people show up. Stefan came and he was talking to a group of people who I had never seen before.
Okay.
they were uh Stephen told me what was it about? Was about watch namespaces in Flux. They wanted to scale, I think, Flux operator, resource set, and they were proposing implementing the watch namespaces flag, which we didn't want to have.
Oh, for
And
like namespace level sharding of Flux operator resources.
I think so. And we
Why did we
went
not want that? What was the
because we were more like, I mean, Stefan was, but I agree with him, which is we can do watch labels instead for sharding, like for proper sharding, like in Flux. And um but there's a very good reason, which I don't remember right now, for not having watch namespaces. But what really matters is that their use case was uh like we
Oh,
made them
Flux instance
see.
would not work since it's supposed to be. No, that would be fine too. Or is it hard coded to Flux system?
No, it's hard coded to Flux, the name, I
Just the
think,
name only.
not the namespace.
But it would be weird for a Flux operator to, because there's only supposed to be one Flux instance in the cluster.
Yeah.
You could probably do weird things with like V clusters or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, I, I think
Yeah, I don't quite. Maybe Stefan mentioned it in his comments in the thread about why
whatever
is
it
it not a
was,
good
I don't think
idea?
it made it into the notes, but and there's no recording, so that's lost the time, I guess. You can ask Stefan.
Yeah, but I guess he probably wrote something in the issue. But there's some good reason for not supporting watch namespaces in Flux Operator, but there is for watch labels, like to make it to be able to shard. Flux operator the same way sharding works in Flux, which is pretty cool. And we've discussed a way of making Flux operator manage itself as a component, like as instead of managing Flux operator through a Helm release in a cluster, we make it part of the Flux instance instead. We have plans for that. That is very fucking cool.
That makes some sense, I suppose. Um,
Yeah.
it's like kind of scary to have a component like manage itself when it can break itself completely.
But that's what Flux always did, right? It's
That's
possible.
what all, yeah, that's what Flux always did. But now, at least with Flux Operator, it's like there's a clear
They
handoff.
manage it, they each other.
Yeah.
But
Okay. On the agenda, I see Deepti's populating some links that she wants to talk about. I guess while we're populating the agenda, it's worth saying that we released Deepti's blog post this week and it went really nicely. Got actually quite a
yep,
bit of engagement. Um,
very good.
so
Thanks,
that's
Deep
great.
Team.
Um, yeah, really nice job on the copy there. I ended up not modifying anything. I thought it was good to go just the way that it needed to be. And I guess I'll link that in the agenda for anyone who has not seen it. The Ignore Rules blog post. Is that really great reception? Um,
Thanks, Lee. You're taking thoughts out of my mind.
Here's this. We'll apply that. Um, so next week will be the FlexMirror post. I'll put up a draft today or tomorrow on FlexMirror, and we'll be focusing mostly for the FlexMirror use case for this initial blog on the use case of mirroring stuff from the internet into wherever you want to mirror it. Not really doing too much on the private SigStore stack because there's work to be done to make that happen. Um, okay, did anyone else have agenda items that they wanted to add? Otherwise, we should talk about DD stuff with customized controller. Cool. I guess just a footnote before we talk about that is we're working on a Flux patch release right now, and that's all we can say. Okay. So that will be 294.
Yes.
And then
This week. Hopefully. Maybe today.
yeah, that should drop pretty soon. Cool. Deepti, you linked some things here. Are these the same link or are they different?
There are two different code pointers,
Okay.
just for easy reference.
Yeah. I guess I could probably share my screen. Pull this out into its own window so that people don't have to look at it in full monitor for the notes. Okay. Uh, we're, whoa. Okay. Getting like a instance windows from Zoom. Okay. And we can see the agenda notes over here. So we talked about the blog post, we talked about the patch release 294 dropping this week. Deep D, you mentioned wanting to talk about these particular code points. So inside of PKG SSA manager apply, you linked to apply cleanup options, this struct. and then you also linked to this particular line of code, where inside of the apply implementation for resource manager.
Yeah.
Uh, Here, cleanup metadata has, I guess, the proposed object and the existing one, and some cleanup options.
Yeah. I can share a little more context. I was hoping to create an issue ahead of this call, but I didn't get the time. So, but I'll do that later today. But
Your time.
just to summarize, so customized controller has this capability, a controller flag that we can pass specifying an override manager. What it does is it disallows another field manager from modifying the resource, and Flux essentially takes over all the managed fields that were specified by that other manager.
Mhm.
And we typically do it. So I think this struct here talks about, I think, the field managers which are added to this list and some of the options around cleanup. And today, this override manager is applied after a dry run. So that is first we during the apply we do the dry run. Once the dry run is successful, we then apply this override manager. So there is a scenario that we came across where like we have an internal team that does a very large scale deployment of Flux, like over 10,000 or 12,000 clusters, and they are currently in very early stages of adopting Flux, and so they have to kind of keep rolling back between their traditional deployment without Flux and the one that they're trying to migrate to with Flux. So when they do this, what happens is the resources that are deployed by Flux, it kind of gets co-owned by that other manager, and they would like to use this override manager capability so that when they move back and forth now while they are figuring things out, when they go to Flux, they are able to kind of let Flux successfully
Take the
manage all of,
final ownership.
take over ownership of all of these resources.
Yeah.
Matthias, I'll get to your question. I'll just complete my thought. But what's happening is, as part of this back and forth between that other controller and Flux, some of the resources they are not in a valid or healthy state during the dry run. So while the override manager capability would have really helped them recover the situation, uh, the fact that it happens after a dry run is we're not even reaching that code path. The dry run fails, and the like Flux is not successfully able to take over the resources. So what I wanted to ask is that do we see any issues with introducing a Boolean flag or something in these apply cleanup options where if set or like any other way as well, but if set before dry run, we would use this override manager capability to take over or like clean up some of these resources. So that was a question. I will try a POC with the actual fix and just make sure that the scenario that they enumerated is kind of called out in the issue. And that, we, with the fix, we are able to recover the situation. So I'll do that homework from my side and but before creating the issue. But I just thought, given that we have the dev agenda meeting today, I'll just bring it up. Matthias, yeah, you had a question.
Yeah, I have two questions. So first one, is this related at all to drift, ignore
No,
field rules? No,
no,
right? Okay.
unrelated to that.
Second, the second is actually not a question, but so if, well, if I understand correctly, the issue is that dry run runs first before this cleanup, and some objects are not ready, and because of that, dry run fails and
Yeah.
prevents the whole thing to from happening, right?
Right, yeah. So, like, just to kind of share, suppose, imagine a scenario where initially GitOps is healthy and Flux has like server side applied a bunch of resources, deployments, daemon sets, etc. And then we hit an issue because of which we have to like break glass, disable Flux. Then their legacy mechanism, which is a controller that used kubectl to put those APIs, kind of comes into picture. And there it uses a full object put, and it ends up owning the entire resource. Now, when they re-enable Flux, it force reasserts a new Git image, for example, and then that Git image, like the image field, is owned by Flux, but rest of the object or the container was co-owned by this other controller. And then if a subsequent reconciliation via Flux drops that entire container image, then we get into a situation where Flux is not able to cleanly drop that image because another manager kind of owns that container, whereas Flux owns the image. So it ends up applying a dry run object without the image field. And Kubernetes API server kind of rejects that object because like that's not a valid object where rest of the object is present, but the image field is absent. So that's how they get into that situation. What they would like is that that previous manager's fields are all dropped and Flux kind of takes ownership of the entire thing. And that would have happened successfully a little later, but given that the dry run object itself is not valid, we end up hitting an error and failing the reconciliation.
So your proposal is like a Boolean to flip the order to let
Yeah. Yes. So a Boolean, not
essentially
to
let
flip
the
the order.
cleanup.
Yeah, a cleanup, but like yeah, a Boolean which says that even before the dry run, kind of do the same thing. I think it's doing a patch call to replace the field managers. So do that before the
Yeah. So
then
literally swap the order of dry run and the cleanup for managers, right?
exactly. Mhm.
Um, well, yes. I mean, I basically we need to see why this order is there right now. Is it for a
Yeah,
specific reason?
right.
Like maybe it's the only way to do this,
Yeah,
but
because
if
I think the
not,
feature is not very useful if we are not able to take over for an invalid object. Right? So they had like two scenarios where the
yeah,
object is valid, it's all working okay because we are able to take ownership successfully. But when the object is invalid, we are not able to. So it just felt like
yeah,
almost a bug as well. Maybe the intention was to take over everything irrespective of if the dry run is successful or failed. But right
It
now,
sounds to me
yeah,
more like a bug,
yeah.
honestly.
exactly. Like
I don't think that
it
we
could
should
be,
introduce an option here, but we really
yeah,
to talk through the details and really identify it as
yeah,
a bug
exactly.
for which
Like,
there is no other sensible behavior. It sounds to me like we might need to run the field manager override at two different places potentially. And we're missing the first one in the error case the
yeah,
where the manager conflict is producing a server-side apply that is invalid because of strange field ownership edge cases here. That's the
Mhm.
thing that is a little bit unclear to me. Also, compliments to you for very succinctly explaining all of the technical details here. I think I was able to follow the whole setup very surprisingly well for you just like speaking about the problem. I feel like most people would need to draw an architecture diagram and ramble for 30 minutes, and you just like said it in two paragraphs, with like no filler words or anything. That was kind of crazy, actually, really. But but yeah, like this detail of the the manager of the kubectl controller ending up owning the container and the rest of the object, and then Flux then wanting to reconcile removing an image that is creating an
Dry run object. Yeah.
invalid apply. It's a really it's a strange state to be in. And it makes me wonder, is that state like so why would it be corrected with the field manager ownership changing? Does that mean that Flux wants to produce a different effective apply if the owners are different?
So the other owner was just like a fallback or a mitigation to resolve an incident. It's the in a happy path scenario, we are just expecting Flux to be applied, but because we are doing such a large scale migration, moving to Flux for about like thousands, tens of thousands of clusters. A few of them we hit an issue, so we end up rolling back to a version of the deployment without Flux, and then now we're trying to roll forward to using Flux again, and that time you end up hitting the error path. So like there are a lot of clusters which are also did not hit the error path, are all in a good state as well, but like a subset of
Yeah,
clusters
this is an edge case like with some ordering
would like to roll back also.
prerequisites. But why why does changing the field owners fix the problem?
Oh, because I think right now Flux is not able to do any, we're not able to use GitOps essentially because of the bad state that the objects are in.
Because it's oh
Removing
because
it
the
lets Flux take over the ownership of the whole object and apply whatever desired state successfully on the cluster.
The question is, why does the dry run fail? Because that's what blocks the
yeah.
what comes after that you want to happen, right? Like you want to use the override manage that happens immediately after the dry run. Why does the dry run
Yeah,
fail
why does
exactly?
the dry run fail and why does changing the managers fix it?
It solves it, yeah.
So the
That
dry run is failing because I think the object that is present on the cluster and the object that is reconciled, I think Flux does like a merge when it's doing the apply, and that merged object is invalid. It has so I think in the imagine like in the Git repository there was a spec which
Oh,
dropped the
and that
container.
merge happens in the dry run.
It
So
happens in the dry.
the right run fails because of the result of this merge.
Merge, right, right. Because I think in the GitOps, imagine that an entire container subspec was dropped, but the desired state on the cluster had it, and it had two owners, Flux and another owner. So when Flux is trying to apply this new object, dropping this entire container from the spec,
Right.
it's ending up pruning an image field of a required object, which makes the dry run object invalid. But it is during this apply.
So
And so removing,
it's exactly how the field managers are currently in the object
right,
that result in a merge that fails the dry run, right?
right, right. And I can paste the object and things in the issue so that we have like more clarity on like what the object looks like between the two owners. But yeah, it's leading to
Yeah.
an invalid dry run, like dry run returning an error, missing the cleanup.
so
Yeah,
changing
this
the
is
field managers produces a
the
different
correct merge
Correct.
to
Yeah.
make the dry run succeed, I guess.
So the other owner gets removed as part of the cleanup patch that we do, and then the dry run ends up succeeding. The
just out
hope.
of
Yeah, this makes a
curiosity,
lot of sense.
I don't know if it's a I don't know if it's important or not, but are you in the controller that's using kubectl, are they using a custom field manager or is it just the normal client side?
I think they're not using server-side apply. They're just doing or they're doing like put of the kubectl, and I think they end up like owning the entire object
What field
from.
exactly did they change? Was it the image or you said it's
I think it was
what
an
inside the
entire
container?
container. I think I'll have to go back and check. It was an entire container of a daemon set. And this, so I from the like I
Mm,
from what I could tell from the
something like a
ownership,
kubectl patch? Is it
yeah,
patch that you do?
I
Like a
think it
raw
was.
patch or
I think it was a put
a
that
put?
removed a broken container and added it with like a hotfix image or something something of that sort. And then later on, we end up dropping that entire container. So just imagine like a temporary container which was there, which was not, it was just a sidecar. And then that sidecar has been removed in the subsequent GitOps deployment where things end up breaking.
I'm very curious to see exactly which command they used now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
DT, have you done much like creating a end-to-end test harness?
Yeah,
Uh
I'm working on that right now. And like I was hoping to finish that ahead of this call last night,
yeah, no
but
worries.
I couldn't. I'll do that today and then I'll
In
open an issue.
in the
I mean,
SSA package, right?
it's
Yeah.
kind of a gift that you didn't finish it because this is the most fun that we've had talking about an issue on a Flux call in a while anyway. So, like linking to the code and the work in progress, this is the kind of collaboration that is so sorely missing for my work these days anyway. Okay. Uh,
So my take is like this is looking very much like what you're saying, like it like a bug, like it makes total sense that the managers impact the resulting merge that the dry run should do. So it really looks like a bug fix that we don't need a Boolean for. But at the same time, I really want to dig history and see if there's actually a specific reason for this order because it's kind of very unique in order to be just an overlook, right? It does not sound like it's kind of very like you notice that, right? Like
the
you
strange edge
it
case.
yeah,
To
like it's weird like to be that way. So it must
I
have a
really want to
reason.
understand like why this order of operations produces a API validation error. Because it
Mhm.
sounds like it's like, is it is this actually a reasonable like use case, or is this something where like the GitOps declaration is maybe holding it in a weird way and then it's producing a weird outcome? I don't know. Like and then even if it is that, does it is it safe in all consequential behaviors,
Mhm.
for us to change the behavior and then have Flux kind of eject people out of this really bad situation? Um,
Yeah. And
but
I'll do that.
it
I'll
sounds possible.
Yeah.
Like it maybe the answer is yes, like to any of those things. Like maybe it's a reasonable use case and this is a bug. Maybe it's a unreasonable use case and Flux can still fix it safely. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
I think the reason to kind of Boolean flag or maybe a feature flag because we don't know if there are existing users of the override manager flag today who are using it a certain way. I think that is the reason why I didn't want to kind of make it little bit opt-in. That is, if there are people who don't want this
Yeah. That
behavior,
yeah,
then
we need to
existing
do this
things continue
carefully.
to get preserved, and whoever wants this capability that even before dry run we want to correct the field managers, we let them
Yeah.
opt in and kind of so it'll be a
I have
conscious
a
decision and
customer.
not break things.
I have a customer using that. Um, so I would like them to test any
my
changes
past
we make.
experience with the override manager has been with OLM and the OpenShift uh, ecosystem. So,
We have people who I would like to test any changes we do in that. Like, one question, like, so the dry run, because to do the cleanup, we need to get the object, right? So I don't remember right now if in the dry run, like, we do a get and then we do a dry run, or if the dry run is the get. I don't know,
uh, I think
but yeah.
we do like a get and then it's on the like cluster desired state. We're trying to actually do an apply server side apply with the dry run flag. So yeah.
here's the thing. Um, so conceptually, you'd think it makes sense that Flux would want to take ownership of fields with Override Manager. But what if the GitOps declaration is wrong, right? Like that's sort of what the dry run is trying to get ahead of. Like, what if I have a typo in a field name? It's like the apply is supposed to be atomic. So you're not supposed to change the object unless you have a good desired state, right? And that's kind of what the dry run is supposed to be like helping you with. And if we needed to change the field managers beforehand, then you would have a non-atomic apply where you would end up where the desired state is okay, like I can change the field managers, but then when I do my dry run, like I have a typo in a field name, so I can't make more progress. So Flux in that scenario would be like changing field managers, but not able to do anything more. And that whether that behavior is actually the a good intent or not would be kind of an expansion of the feature's behavior. Am I reasoning about it correctly? Are you following me? Anyone, let me know. Because right now, if I have a typo and then I turn Flux on, say we bootstrap the cluster with something, OLM, right? It put an operator into the cluster. Now we want Flux to take it over. I turn it on. My deployment, has a field that shouldn't be there. This is going to fail dry run. Flux can't do anything with that. If we clean up managed fields beforehand and overdo overrides, then Flux will be managing those fields, even though it can't do anything about it. Because once the field managers have been updated, okay, we're going to do our server-side apply dry run based off of, that new resource with the clean fields. Okay, now we're getting around the issue of maybe generating an SSA with an invalid object because we own all the fields. Still don't understand that part completely, but let's just assume that's the thing that fixes it. Since my declaration of the resource in my GitOps repo is invalid, then we've changed the field managers, but have to throw up an error.
Yeah, so you're saying that if this was not a valid object in the first place because of which dry run failed, rather than like like the opposite, the false scenario in in a sense, like we would have recovered if the GitOps object was right, and it was just a merge error. But what if the whatever was there in
Yes.
the source itself was invalid?
Yeah.
And in that case, if we just mess up the in cluster state.
Yeah. Because I think this feature was added quite recently, if I'm not mistaken. Is that,
I have to check the
Override
history.
manager?
yeah. Did
I
anybody?
remember seeing it being added recently in Helm controller, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
It was added as like to match customized controller. I think in customized controller we have this for a long time.
Oh, we added it in Flux operator recently, I think.
I also saw this happening in Helm controller. I don't
Yeah,
remember
in Flux
exactly.
operator, we appended to the manager overrides as well for Flux instance, but that was pretty recent, and I think it was based off of the code in Flux.
Hmm.
Okay.
It looks like 2022. It's been there since 2022.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's actually a pretty long time in Flux years. So it's been like,
I just thought about something.
so maybe a
What if,
Boolean could make sense, but
yeah,
also it's not the worst thing in the world to like change managers if you have a bad apply. I mean, like the whole point and spirit of the flag is for Flux to take ownership over these things. So it's like
yes. And the
if you have a
concern I
bad
just had
desired
is
state,
related to that.
it's like you still want Flux. Like you could argue that it's part of the desired state that Flux owns these fields regardless of whether or not it can do anything about them. But it does feel like that's a change to the behavior that's pretty significant. Was that
Yeah.
kind of intuition, Deepti?
Sorry, could you repeat the last part? Uh,
Just like how it's a pretty significant behavioral change to be fixing the field managers before you know if the desired state is going to be valid.
yeah. Yeah, no, I agree, which is why I think I wanted to kind of bring it up here and discuss if there was any history that I was missing or if there was any reason why we did it this way. Uh, yeah.
It would be good
The
to get Stefan's 2 cents on this as well.
Yeah. The good thing is that it's whoever has specified an override manager, it only impacts that subset, and they have made a conscious decision to let us know that these field managers
Yeah.
are to be disallowed. So cleaning that up in that sense is okay, because it's an explicit user intent that we disallow these managers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I well, are there default override managers though?
Yes,
Like the kubectl
Qt,
ones.
yeah,
We
yes,
would be
yes.
changing that behavior, right? Or would
Uh,
we not?
yeah,
We
if there
would
are
be
defaults, then.
changing that behavior. Yes, we would.
Yeah, which is why I
Um,
think feature flag kind of makes sense. That is, if the users opt in to this, only then they get impacted, at least to begin with. And then if we see users kind of successfully using this feature flag and not hitting errors, then we can turn it on by default. So that is one way to.
I have a concern. So I just thought about a potential reason for why the order is that the order that we have today, which is I wonder because when we clean up managers, that means changing the object, right? Like we send a patch for the object, changing only the managers. Uh, but server-side apply interprets that as like there's a consequence on the final shape of the object when we do that, right? Like when we drop managers. So that means the object is changed. The controller of that object will react and things will happen. Maybe downtime. I don't know. And maybe the order is trying to prevent that, like because we only patch if the dry run succeeds. Uh, and then if we change the order and we patch first and we modify the object, that if the dry run fails after that, the apply was no longer atomic,
Yeah,
right? We
that's kind of what I was getting at earlier. I think
right. So
it's
I
good to
guess
it's good
that's
to
the
talk through it
reason.
again. Like you're losing the kind of atomic nature of the apply where you're mutating the field managers.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't know actually if things will really react off of field manager changes. I guess I guess they would. Um, the kubectl use case is probably the most important one here because that's it's probably like the biggest part of the behavioral surface that people run into is people changing things in the cluster and then Flux, how does Flux behave as a result of that? Um, and I certainly could see a scenario where your desired state was invalid in your GitOps repo and you said, oh, I don't want to deal with that. I'm just gonna go log into the cluster and start kubectling around and in, your dev namespace or something. Try to fix some stuff and then now it's running. If the then like Flux as a product of that, with its invalid state that was already known beforehand, starts changing your field managers on you while you're messing around with kubectl, then somebody could see probably a pretty significant client side change, right? Because like kubectl, like you could add replicas to a deployment or something. Maybe it wasn't there at all and it was just defaulting. It wasn't part of the GitOps desired state. You add replicas with kubectl. Now Flux is like, hey, that's mine. So you try to change it in kubectl and it's like, hey, this is not your field manager. And you're like, what happened? Um, but it's like that's not even part of Flux's desired state. It's just like, oh, I'm gonna like take ownership of this, but then I can't do anything about it. Like I'm like normally this would drift correct and it would be like it would remove the replicas field, right? And like revert your kubectl change. Um, but that would be the typical behavior if the customization was healthy. But if the customization is failing validation right now, the field manager will stay in control of kubectl. So kubectl will be able to mutate the replicas and stuff like that. Typically, Flux would remove it, but we're failing validation, which means Flux won't do anything right now in the current control flow. That means that the replicas would stay there. Kubectl would stay in control of it. You'd be able to continually interactively edit the replica's value on the deployment, right? I can change it to 3, I can change it to 5. With this behavioral change, if we cleaned up the managers for the default kubectl manager, then Flux would take ownership of the replicas field and the client side behavior that you would see as somebody interactively mutating the replicas is Flux has a validation error, but it's taken ownership of the thing that I've added to the object. So now I'm getting a field manager conflict. Am I reasoning about it correctly?
Why would we see a field manager conflict given that this is removing a field manager?
It's oh, it only because then Flux would own it.
Yeah.
Flux would own the thing that I added to kubectl to the resource with kubectl. So like I added it, Flux can't do anything about it because it's currently in a invalid desired state. Um, but Flux is now taking ownership of the thing that I added to the resource without actually then taking action to remove it. So the field is there, and I put it there, but now I can't change it.
Hmm.
By the way, I just found that we already did something pretty bad about atomicity with migrate API version. It already runs before the dry run.
Yeah, well, if your API version stuff is like incorrect, then that's unfortunate with the migrate API version stuff because you can get
At least
validate
it's opt-in.
but you can get validation errors as a result of uh like not having your APIs migrated, right? And like the only way to fix it is to I think that
Migrate.
that's why that's before validation because you will fail validation if you cannot check against the schema if the API version's already gone. Um,
Yes, I guess that's exactly why we added this feature.
yeah, that's the kind of use case that I was like almost imagining that Deepti might have been in her 10,000 cluster upgrade thing, but then it ended up being this field manager conflict thing. Um, it could be okay, maybe it is a feature gate. Just talking through it.
Yeah,
Um, let's let's draft up the issue and an end-to-end test of some sort, even if it's just like a shell script on a kind cluster that gets it to this bad state that we can reason about. I think what's really key here is understanding why the field managers are producing a patch that fails validation.
Yep.
Because that feels like a weird thing to be able to be possible to do. I'm not surprised that it's possible, just like what is the use case that actually gets there? Because if you're doing something really strange where
The
maybe there's
sequence
something
of events, right? The sequence of events that kind
there
of
might
thing.
be something more semantically correct. Like there might be like a way to express the desired state that doesn't hit this edge case where really it's maybe more of a docs and behavior thing. But if this is like more in the bug category, then we have to understand does fixing this create a bad experience for people who are interacting with the cluster with kubectl and Flux potentially in a bad state? Because you would see that almost as a reactionary path that like people would follow, right? Like, oh, for some reason I can't get my changes to work through Flux. I don't understand, whatever. I'm going to go into the cluster and start using kubectl. There's currently an experience for that already functions a certain way. And so we need to be careful to not modify things, which is sort of the intuition that you brought up earlier. Um, and if there's a way to fix this that doesn't affect that, like maybe even filtering out field managers or something, or like looking to see what's default and what isn't, like I don't know, we could talk about some things. Maybe there's something that makes sense here. But at a minimum, adding a feature gate or a Boolean flag that enables this behavior seems like a useful thing for a cluster operator who is trying to direct a fleet of thousands of clusters. That makes total sense to me. I would say my instinct is we have to find some way for people to be able to do something like this.
Yeah, like this feels a lot like the migrate API version feature gate.
It does feel
Like
like, yeah.
very much, right? It's
So
very acceptable.
let's figure out what the constraints are, if what the behaviors and buggy things are, and then figure out how to get there so that we can ship a bug fix or a feature or something that lets people deal with this.
One thing we can definitely do, regardless of the outcome of our discussion and research about this, is we could have a test case in the SSA package with that asserts the current behavior, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like if we can capture this as a
Mhm.
test case in the SSA package, that would be awesome. And then if we change the behavior as a bug fix or as a flag, a Boolean,
Yeah.
then we change, wait, specifically if we do it as a flag, then we can assert both behaviors, right? Like
Yeah,
of
that end-to-end harness
the flag.
would be key because that gives us the edge case that's failing. Then we can write code to fix the edge case, but what will be interesting is what existing test cases fail and whether or not we should add a new one. Like you said, Mateus, if there's not existing test cases that are already covering the kubectl behavior in the way that
Yeah, there
it's
could be
about.
actually, right? There
Yeah,
could be test cases there that actually already
I
cover
would hope
the
so. I would hope that we already have test cases that are covering Flux
There's a
drive
big chance. Deeply
failing.
added a ton of test cases
Yeah,
recently.
yeah.
But they were all ignore rules specific.
Right, right.
What a gift, though, that you ran into this SSA bug after already shipping a feature on top of all
Yeah,
of the
otherwise I would have to spend a lot of
damage.
time trying to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Now
Your
you're,
teammates must have felt so lucky for you
Yeah,
to
I
be on the
get
call, like,
it.
oh, I'm the one SSA expert on Flux in the world
No, no,
right
no,
now.
no, no.
yeah.
At
Yeah.
least that apply code path felt familiar because of it, nothing more than that.
Yeah, you're like, I know a way to fix that. Let me go look. Okay, cool. Um,
Yeah,
wow.
I'll do the end-to-end test. I think check the history of this and also look at the kubectl angle and like the default field managers. I'll take all of
Mhm.
that into consideration, draft an issue, and keep you all posted. Thank you so much for the discussion.
You're the best, DT. Love working with you. Okay, great. Well, we're kind of nearing the end of the time block. Uh, as far as agenda goes, we celebrated the blog post. I'll work on the Flux Mirror blog post. Um, Patch release coming out within the week. And we talked about this SSA behavior. Is there anything else? Also, we're trimming the front part of this Zoom call, which is just all about us rambling about the Zoom link and the host code and how to get access to the host code and all of that stuff since there's new Zoom links. But just, as part of the recording, we have new Zoom URLs. You have the option to log in as a guest, or you can use the LFX ID. That's your Linux Foundation ID to log into Zoom with your identity. And there are two links now, separate ones for the Europe and the US early and late time slots. All of those links are updated in the calendar from the mailing list. They're updated on the Flux website. Thank you, Kingdon. And they're also updated in the agenda doc at the top. You'll just have to join the right link now for the proper meeting that you want to join. And is there anything else we should talk about? Otherwise, we should end the meeting. We're 4 minutes over. Cool. Great. Thank you, friends. We'll post the recording.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
Have a great
Right.
day.
Yeah, you
Thank you,
too.
everybody. Bye.
Bye, everyone.